usually would start at the beginning in terms of saying, how did you end up in this whole publishing world? Give us your history. But I feel like we should go straight into your recent appointment as publishing director of Vogue. So tell us how that happens and how that came about.
Okay. So recently I was appointed publishing director of Vogue, and came through lots of hard work, basically.
But were you nominated? Did you know it was coming, or did it come out of the blue?
Well, you know, nothing ever comes completely out of the blue. You can feel that things are changing and you need to sort of live up to certain expectations. But basically 2 years ago, I was made publisher of British GQ. And those 2 years we used as a big point of transformation. So we did a lot of work, particularly around digital. It was a lot of hard work, tried to change culture a lot. As you know, a lot of media brands who are print in heritage have had challenges around moving into the digital space. And at GQ, there was this whole forward momentum around nailing that. So it was an amazing 2.5 years, and we had our highest revenue year of the decade in 2016, which is very important for a publisher, and I think that helped to pave the way for the Vogue role. I should actually explain what a publisher does, because I don't know if many people know. Like, my mother still doesn't know what I do. She is describing what I do to other people, and I'm like, that is not my job. So a publisher sits alongside the editor, and whereas the editor is responsible for all of the creativity in the magazine, the publisher is responsible for the business of the magazine and all of the media platforms. And so it's about revenue, basically, so turning that creativity into cash. And that can take lots of different forms. It means managing the image and working with the PR teams and marketing teams to manage the image of the brand. It means advertising revenues, other revenues, but it's really about harnessing creativity and turning that into revenue. Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation. So prior to the Vogue appointment, obviously you was at GQ before, like you said. So you've done a lot of men's fashion. Yeah. Was that on purpose? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I've worked in men's fashion for a while. Even when I worked in retail and in fashion, in personal shopping, and I always seemed to land in men's. Yeah. And I used to think it was just a coincidence and everything, but like everything in life, there's a purpose and a reason. I think that, first of all, I was, not now, but I was such a tomboy that I was always most kind of comfortable, I suppose, in men's. And when I transitioned into absolutely falling in love with women's wear, for me that was like fun, and then everything else was work. And as I've sort of progressed, I realized that actually work is really about finding what you love. This is my top tip, honestly, and making that your career, because we all, whatever we're doing, are working harder and harder. And if you are not doing something you love, it's gonna, you're gonna feel every minute, right? If you're doing something you love, then you can push through and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think with the menswear thing as well, I had an incredible dapper grandfather. I mean, he was like stepping out every day. He's my grandfather on my mother's side. So I spent a lot of my youth in the Caribbean, in St. Kitts, and my grandfather had spent time in London and had a penchant for Savile Row, and he really fused kind of British Savile Row style with his West Indian style, and then also a bit with kind of the African roots. So we grew up in like a tiny village, and he would step out in like a 3-piece suit, like, you know, hot sun. And I think we were very close, and I just always loved that. I always loved to see a well-turned-out man. And so I guess that all of those things fed into it, yeah.
Okay. So let's just touch on the side of being a female publisher in a men's industry. Do you feel like the publications you have worked for have benefited from that female touch?
Well, of course I'm going to say yes. I think that I just don't really think too much day to day about I'm a woman and they're men, or I'm, whatever. I think that back in the day when I was coming up, there were a lot of women in business, my sort of business elders and the people I looked up to, and who paved the way a lot for what I'm doing. I'm very grateful for. What I saw is that they were adopting very sort of masculine traits almost, and they were kind of feeling like, to make it in business, I need to be tough and I need to be hard and, And my view is that actually some of the things that go along with femininity, which are stereotypical, not, 100% of the case, but some typically feminine traits are really great in business. So things like empathy, things like great listening skills, those sorts of things really help. Yeah. And I think also that I don't really bring a lot of ego to what I do. So if I'm faced with like an alpha male, it's easier to kind of calmly put across my points and get what I need done. Whereas I think two alpha males kind of... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just in general, I think that having a point of difference, whatever it is, whether it's a female in a male world or whatever, a lot of people talked about the ethnicity side of things. I just feel like being different is an absolute strength, whatever that difference is. And I just would say to everybody, embrace that when you go into a situation. I know there's always lots of talk about kind of, wanting to fit in, wanting to have people around who look like you, and that's really, really important. But sometimes if they aren't around, embrace that, because that's what makes you stand out. That might make people listen to you more. And also I think coming from Africa, we are not a nation of people who want to blend in, right? And I love that. When I moved to the UK, I was 7, and I was so struck by the fact that everybody, particularly at school, wanted to fit in, and it was all about fitting in, and it was all about having the same hairstyle and the same clothes, and you weren't part of the gang unless you had this or that. But it really struck me as odd, because I was born in Kenya, and in Kenya, woo-woo! And in Kenya, right, everybody wants to stand out. Those ladies are all seamstresses, they're all making their own dresses, they're not trying to look like anyone else. And I grew up in the Caribbean, and there, if you go to church on Sunday, it's a fashion show, okay? Everybody's like, whose hat is the biggest, who's in the most color. So we come from cultures of people who are happy and confident with standing out. So why is it that in business we can't channel that, into being like, it's okay, I'm going to be the only one here, I'm going to stand out, and I'm going to wear a fly dress while I'm doing it.
Why not? Yeah, why not? That's great. Okay, and also, obviously, in your intro, we spoke about your new appointment, and not just that, but prior to that, in your career, you've been breaking barriers, you've been doing amazing things that perhaps, wasn't expected of you. So how did you manage to deal with those challenges that came along with breaking, I don't want to say the glass ceiling because it's so cliche, but with
it's
breaking.
Not broken yet.
Still to be broken, right? Yeah. But how would you say you dealt with those?
I guess it's that, part of it is that thing about, I come from a really confident background, and all of the people before, standing on shoulders of giants, of people who in their own way have broken ground. I'm not going to be intimidated by any challenge. I'm not saying it doesn't make my knees shake sometimes when there's something big, but if not me, then who? We just have to embrace these things. And I think that, I'm doing a lot of speaking to younger people, and I know that there's something big coming with the next generation, and there's so much innovation coming, and that generation really inspires me. And what I see is that there's always resistance to change. So as I'm working with those people, what I see is the people they're interacting with are nervous because they can't fully compute it, right? So I guess for me, any barriers or challenges, I look at it as it's not personal. People are instinctively nervous of things that are different, but it's in our hands to help massage that situation and bring it around. So yeah, just try not to be too daunted and try not to think about it every day.
Okay, you touched there briefly on innovation and doing things that are new and things that are different. So while you were at GQ, I know that you focused a lot on the digital side of things. You're very much into tech, so you were able to expand the digital element of the brand while still maintaining the print as well, and of course breaking records while you were there. So what advice would you give to any print publications that perhaps may have challenges with the new digital age, and how they can manage the two without?
I just think that, in London and in the West in general, there's this feeling that digital's competing with print, and it's either digital or it's print, and digital's going to see the end of print. For me, it's like, why? There is no reason, if you work for or run a heritage print brand, that you can't use digital to secure your future, to future-proof you. As long as all of your platforms work together, so you're using your digital platform to drive your print eyeballs and vice versa, then it all kind of works. The other thing I would say is that Africa is really leading the way when it comes to tech. So we're looking to you, right, in the West, because a lot of the innovations, not just in media, but just more generally, that are coming out of the continent are being picked up in the West. An example that I really love is in the banking space. Some of the necessities here are driving how we use tech in banking in the UK and in the West more generally. In Kenya, there's been a system called M-Pesa, which is absolutely brilliant, where you can transfer money via mobile phone because of the necessities in that country. And lo and behold, a few years later, Barclays Bank launched a brilliant scheme called Ping It, which basically used the technology and the concept from that Kenyan developer to launch this huge thing, and they really owned it, And so I think that actually there are so many people here who are native technology users, so many people in tech, in STEM, sciences, and so on. And in the diaspora, I think we should be really proud that we're leading the charge with that. So don't look to us in the West. You guys have the answers here, and don't be afraid of it. It's not two separate things. The way that social is used here in Nigeria, across the continent, is so impressive. People have made themselves global stars. So there's no reason that media brand can't do that if an individual can do it. So leverage it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, so are there any African fashion brands that you have, are there any African fashion brands that have jumped out to you? Any brands, not just here, but around the continent, that have popped out to you? And what are your thoughts on how they are doing their
I just think that the continent is absolutely killing it at the moment. Some of the designers coming out of Africa, Nigeria in particular, is doing incredibly well. Yes, Kenya as well. I always try to represent African designers, so even when I'm doing the International Fashion Weeks, I'll wear the brands who want to dress me, but I always represent an African brand. Everyone's so excited. They might not always say it, but everybody's looking at what we're doing here. I was in New York last week, and I had lunch there with Duraloro, who is a genius. And I think that he's just amazing. I love to wear his clothes. And he's got this amazing world view. And he was saying to me that being from Nigeria, he feels that that gives him something different. When he's in London, when he's in New York, it gives him a different perspective to style, because everyone here is a designer. Everybody can make a dress. So if you're going to be a designer here, you have to bring something extra and different. And it was really interesting. This weekend will only, in terms of my clothes, be wearing West African designers. So I'm wearing Maki O today. There's so many, but it's so inspiring, and I'm so happy to be here. Just even walking around and seeing people, how they're dressed, I'm just like, yes.
So you also touched briefly on the work that you do with youths as well. I know you're very interested in how arts and the youth work together. What is your viewpoint on how youths, particularly within Africa, can really basically make a difference within the fashion in industry here?
I think that there is an amazing entrepreneurial spirit with the generation that are coming up. This is globally, actually, but particularly in Africa. I think that one of the things that digital has done is open up and give voice to talent that was always here, but couldn't ever really get, in the mainstream. And I think that there's a huge amount of disruption I see in music, in art, and definitely in fashion, which is one of the arts which a younger generation are bringing through with confidence, unapologetic. The generation before would be in amongst successful people from the West and be a little bit apologetic, like, oh, I'm here too, And one of the things that frustrates me the most is when African art is called crafts, and the same thing in a different setting is art or design. And I think with the younger generation, they're not accepting that. It's not necessarily about fighting or being difficult. They're just stepping forward like, I believe different, and so I'm going into this situation with a different headspace. So for me, it's really inspiring, and I think that we all have a responsibility to nurture that boldness, to not allow our children or the people that we interact with who are younger to apologize for their point of view. Like, the world wants it. The world wants to see their talent. It might not be obvious at first, but bring it.
Okay, so we will open up the floor soon, because I know I'm sure there are so many questions that the guys would like to ask you, but I just want to go back and just hear what your story was in terms of starting out. So, because we kind of jumped straight to the new appointment. So just tell us how you started out in publishing. Did you always know it was something that you wanted to do?
I did not even know the job of a publisher or publishing existed. So my family is super academic, and when I always had this interest in creativity, but quite a business head. And in my wildest dreams, I didn't think you could fuse those two things together. So it was like and of course my parents were like, just study a profession. My sister's now a doctor at Oxford University. So my parents were like, yes, what she did, do that, So my path was not that smooth, because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do or how to get there. I had this sort of overarching interest. So I had a lot of fun just trying different things. I worked in retail, I did personal shopping, I worked in events, and then when I was doing events, I absolutely loved it. I met incredible people. I was working a lot with the BBC and a lot of personalities in the UK, super behind the scenes, but I just stayed close to all of the people that really my spirit took to, not knowing, it's a huge bit of advice I'd give to everyone here, is like, you never know where you're going to end up and who you're going to help and who might help you. So if you meet someone along the way and they might seem completely inconsequential to what your goal is, like, connect with them, nurture that relationship, check in on them, see how they're doing, because while I didn't know what I wanted to do, the most incredible thing, and the thing I couldn't have known, is a lot of those people I connected with, a lot of the time they were not successful or anything. They just, I just felt something for them. They have really helped me with my career along the way. They've given me advice and said, oh, you should try this, and you should meet so-and-so. And so a friend of mine said, you'd be amazing in media. I can introduce you to a friend who can explain kind of what it entails and so on. And that person that I saw was a director at the Evening Standard, which is an amazing magazine and newspaper in London, and he offered me an internship, and I didn't really get what it was. I was just like, but I said, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do it. Yeah. And within a couple of months, they'd offered me a permanent job, and I just had a succession of breaks, I would say. I was going to say luck, but I don't fully believe in luck. A lot of opportunities, I think, that came my way to move up very quickly, and I just took them and tried to be really kind to everyone I encountered, and that's another thing. It comes back. Yeah. It does. So that's it.
Okay, perfect. You were awarded the MBE by the Queen of England. Yeah. That's amazing. Yes, round of applause. Thank you. So the recognition, how does it make you feel just knowing that people are appreciative of what it is that you're doing in your industry? Yeah. It's amazing.
I mean, it's such a crazy story, the MBE. First of all, it's amazing. Yeah. I didn't take it as seriously as I should have straight off, because I had a situation where my assistant was away when the letter landed, and the lady that was covering her was too nervous to open the mail. So the letter sat there for like 2 weeks. And my assistant came back and was like, oh, you got an MBE and you have to do this, that, and the other. So we just were like, okay, let's make it happen. And then when, on the day of arriving at the palace, I took my mother and my family, it was suddenly like, oh, whoa, this is really big. And of course, my mother was claiming all of it, as she should. She was going around saying hi to everybody, like it was her party, like, welcome to my house. And, there were just incredible people. You're in this holding room, which is absolutely beautiful in Buckingham Palace, and it's so surreal. And on that day, Rod Stewart was getting his knighthood, and a bunch of other people. Some people I knew, actually, but other people I really admired. And then suddenly, it felt enormous, and it felt really vindicating, because, as you said, I always tread a slightly different path, and sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, is this, am I going about this the right way? So it was really nice to be recognized. But my mother, going back to her, Rod Stewart came over and said hi, because she was like waving him down and everything. Just said a nice hello, was being really charming. And my mother's like, oh, Rod, sing us a song. I'm like, turn into a 14-year-old again, immediately, like, Mum. And he turned around to her and he said, maybe later, I'm so nervous. And then suddenly it was like, okay, if he's nervous, I should be nervous, So, yeah, amazing. It was amazing.
That's great, that's great. Okay, so you officially start your role as publishing director in January, right? So how are you feeling? What's the first thing you're going to do when you start? Because, yeah.
It's so exciting. It's like the most exciting thing that's happened in my career, and not just because it's Vogue.
Yeah.
It's exciting because it's a whole moment. The editor, Edward Enningful, is just the most incredible human, and he and I think on such a similar wavelength. We care about the same things. We come at things differently because he's a creative, I'm a business head. But it feels like an incredible partnership, and the energy that he's bringing is just amazing. Like, it's kinetic in our office. And so it feels like this whole reset, that's happening across the industry, and it feels big, and it makes me a bit nervous. But I think anything that's worth doing should make you feel a little bit nervous. So I'm super excited, yeah.
Amazing. Fantastic. Okay, so if it's okay with you, we'd like to open the floor for questions.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
My name is Rennie. I work in public relations and communications here in Lagos. My question is twofold. One, how do you balance, since you're the publisher and your job is to make the magazine make money, how do you balance sort of creative decisions that might be a bit controversial? So for example, Edward just had a black woman on the cover of Vogue and all of that. So in the past, maybe a publisher might have been like, that doesn't, move copies. Do you stay totally away from creative and you just get what you Okay, so one, how do you balance that? And then two, what do you think the impact of having black women in these positions that were sort of previously occupied by white men and women, what do you think that impact has on the industry?
That's a great question. On the front of the creativity, no, I think that the role of the business people who support, who support creatives like Edward is to harness their creativity, not to dampen it. So if I'm working with an editor who wants to do something for the right reasons, and I know it's going to be controversial, then it's my job to build the infrastructure around it to make it okay. If I think there's something wrong, it's controversial and it's going to be challenging in a way that I don't feel is right, then I will challenge that. But we aren't creative, we don't push the boundaries. And I think that having people around who have challenging opinions is difficult for business people, but that's my heartland. I think it's been one of the reasons that I've managed to do quite well in the industry is that I don't shy away from those challenging characters. Like, they're my speciality, and I think that we need to be pushing the narrative, and we need to have people around who are going to be brave always, and my job's to support that. And in public relations, you're like front and center. I wouldn't shut things down. I would just think about the strategies that communicate the whys around something challenging rather than silence it. And then with regards to having black women in prominent positions, right, and on covers and things, I think that it's super important because there's a lot of times I hear people say things like, we can't be what we can't see. I don't entirely agree with that because no one would break through, but it certainly helps, I was just I came here from San Francisco. The jet lag is real. And I was there at a thing called Dreamforce, which is absolutely amazing. They had an entire day. It's run by a huge company called Salesforce. The thing that blew me away is how many people of color they had in leadership there who spoke eloquently. And I left going into the position I'm going into at Vogue feeling ready. Like, Michelle Obama spoke. Like, it's undeniable that, the whole room was hanging on her every word, and everyone left feeling more empowered, but particularly the black women. And so I think it's kind of undeniable that it's really important. My thing is that we shouldn't always make it black or white. Taraji P. Henson spoke after Michelle. She spoke actually just before me, and I was like, nobody's coming to my talk. She was talking about why in America in particular, as soon as someone black is involved in something, it's a black X. So if it's a program with lots of black casts, then it's a black show. If it's a magazine with black people, it's a black magazine or whatever. We have so much to learn from each other, we have so much that we can take in from each other. So we shouldn't really try to be pigeonholed or pigeonhole ourselves. If you've got something worthwhile saying, whatever ethnicity you are, and diversity isn't just about ethnicity. There's a lot of different genres that need to be covered. Then the world needs to hear it, not just the people is leaning against the open door, the people who you already know will get it. What about everybody else who doesn't get it yet? They could fall in love with what you have to say as well. So but yes.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
Yeah, I love your earrings, though.
Thanks. They're Delta Jack.
Okay, my question is, what has been your greatest challenge as a publisher in fashion? Then you being the first black publisher in the Condé Nast I just saw now, so how does it make you feel? Thank you.
What was the last part of the question?
Okay, you being the first black female publisher and the Condé Nast just call the screen now. So how does it make you feel? And what has been your accomplishment so far?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so strange. I just didn't think about the black thing. I just think that when I got the job at GQ, that's when everybody started to go, oh, you're the first woman to do this. I was like, am I? Then they were like, you're the youngest person, you're the first. And then I was so worried about, like, I need to do this job and I need to nail it, that I didn't think about those details. And I think that, of course, it makes me super proud. And I know it makes a lot of other people proud, but I just don't think about it on a day-to-day basis. And because otherwise it's so daunting, you know, otherwise it's like, oh, if I mess this up, then no one else is coming through. And of course I'm mindful of that, but I think that, like I was saying before, I'm kind of used to being the only anything in a room. I mean, one of the things that was, when I was younger, I had a crazy growth spurt. So it was like normal height. And then one day I was like 6 foot tall. And the school that I went to, I was one of a few black people there. And also I said when I was younger, I moved around a lot. So wherever I was, I had the wrong accent. When I moved from Kenya to the Caribbean, they were like, African girl. When I moved from London, from the Caribbean, they were like, Jamaican girl, because they didn't know where the island was. And so for me, that all of that being a bit different just fueled this moment. That's why I said, you never know why things are happening in a certain way, but there is a reason that they're happening. So I'm used to being the only whatever, the only tall girl. And so I just try not to be daunted by it, but very aware of the responsibility as well. I'm trying to set a good example so that people behind me come through with confidence.
Hi.
Hi.
I mean, very, very inspiring lecture. I have really learned a lot. My name is Anu. So here's my question. I mean, you spoke extensively on publishing and stuff like that. Well, I do a bit of, I'm a columnist. I write, but pretty on and off.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'm not the publisher, right? But then I do have a bit of this high end in terms of the fact that being a columnist, I still get to put out my own content. It's not edited by anybody, it's just edited by me.
Yeah.
So how do I keep doing it such that sometimes it's not published because I don't know. I mean, you're the publisher, so that's why I need to find out from the other side of the divide. What is it that you see that you say it's not gonna work? My column is called Poise and Elegance, so it's pretty much lifestyle, beauty, and poise and stuff related like that. But I know that sometimes it's not published, but I don't know why it's not published.
Okay.
So that's my first question. What do I need to do on this side of the divide such that I ensure that it continues and there's a bit of continuity in it? That's one. Then two, with the new age of social media, definitely, I mean, they call it the new media. With the new age of the social media, I also want to be able to make money, even though it's not my paper. How do I then monetize, so to speak, that content on my own, using my website, using my my Instagram? I'm not very good with that, but I know that it's like the new rave and all of that. But I mean, I'm very good with the website bit. So how do I monetize it? So as from an editor, or do I say from a publisher to the editor? So I would need a bit, some tips from you on stuff that I could do to ensure that I can monetize it, and then I can also enjoy doing it, and then obviously something I enjoy doing, even though I'm a lawyer, but I mean the part of that seems to have a bit of, I do get a Thank you.
So nice, Vivian.
I'm shy. Well, I mean, everybody says.
Okay.
Everybody says.
I'm going to forget the first question. So let me. Okay. So the questions are.
The first one.
Yeah.
Okay. Being a columnist.
Okay. So with regards to your content, first of all, you look amazing.
Thank you.
With regards to your content and continuity, I think if you're submitting, the thing I would say, if you're submitting pieces and they're not getting picked up, don't be afraid to ask why. You have a voice. Okay. I see you have a voice.
Yeah.
So ask them, was there anything, without any ego or anything, was there any particular reason why this didn't work for you? People might shoot you back a one-line email, but even that you can learn on and build on.
All right.
And look at the pieces that are picked up and do well. Look at those and think about what they have in common. Why is it that those were picked up and did well and the others maybe weren't?
Yeah.
So learn from yourself.
Okay.
And really consume a lot of content as well, because sometimes when we love doing something, we're so focused on what we do. The thing is we should always be learning. So try to read a lot of the stuff that inspires you and take inspiration from that.
Right.
And with regards to monetizing your content, I think that you need to first build your kind of frequency and your voice. And you have a powerful voice. You've got a lot to say. So do that in a really natural way and talk about the things that you love. Because people love positivity, people like positive things. It's hard to monetize until you have that frequency. But also think about products that you like. Perhaps look at reviewing them. And try to engage people as well. And then, it's not a given because nothing in life is, but it's possible that if you get that frequency and you're talking about product, then the brands behind those products might get in touch and sort of want to engage with you on some of those things.
Okay. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
All right. Okay, my question is quite simple, but I'll explain it this way. Before now, many Nigerian designers, it still happens. Many Nigerian designers run to GQ, run to Vogue, run to which other one? Magazines to get
Those
styles.
are the only ones that count.
Okay. To get styles out there. And it's like we are copying from that way. And just like wooing a lady who likes you but would not show it. And just like what you said, you people are looking up to us. By you people, I mean the West. How do we get noticed? What are those things you're looking from us to get noticed and to stand out and reverse the trend from us looking up to magazines to get styles to those magazines looking up to us to get published? How do you do that? How we get noticed? Thank you.
I think that goes to my point earlier a bit about social media. And there's a kind of endemic confidence that brands like GQ and Vogue love. It's not necessarily the brands that are saying, validate me, please feature me. It's like anything, any kind of attraction. You're always attracted to the ones that don't need you, right? So the brands that are doing their own thing, making their own path, making their own connections, bigging themselves up, super confident, those are the brands that we typically want to work with, that make us feel like, oh, okay, we want to be involved in that magic. So again, I would say that what we have across the continent is our own style, our own confidence, our own heritage. The brands here have magic. And the brands here that I sort of am a bit frustrated with are the ones that are trying too hard to emulate British or American brands. Because like anything, if you're emulating something else, you can never be as good as being a British brand than a British brand, right? But they can never be as good as being a Nigerian brand as you've got. So harness your own magic, your own style, your own, give what you've got, make the world want it.
Congratulations on all your success, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mine's a quick question. My name is Ozzy Agu. I am a performing artist. But mine's more of a like a teaser, if you will, because we're all excited for what's happening in the fashion business and whatnot. But can you tell us a bit of the direction you're going to take Condé Nast in and Vogue and all that? So just a teaser so we can look forward to the new reign, if you will. Thank you.
New reign. Ozzy looks very GQ. I mean, it's hard. I've kind of started, and Edward and I are working very closely together, but I officially start in January. So at the moment, I'm working on a few projects, but really they're kicking in Jan. I don't want to give too much away, but a lot of what we're looking at is really adding an extra layer of magic to print, which I think Edward has down. He's doing that already. The first issue is incredible. It only just hit newsstands, and it's already, you know, people can't get it, and it's amazing. But I think my big role is to keep that going, because the print entity of the magazine is so important and people love it, but really bolster the digital and social offering. Not only for our audience from a user point of view, right? Because we spend more, all of us, we spend more time on our smartphones than we do reading anything in print, even though we love, you know, to hold something tangible. But also from the point of view of the brands that we work with. So the big houses who I work very closely with on GQ and soon to be Vogue, a lot of fashion brands, but also now tech brands, car brands, they really care about having a voice in the digital space, and Vogue will be the brand that helps them do that in an effective way. So, and lots more to come, but yeah.
Hi, Vanessa. Hi. My name is Pepper, and I run an organization called The Assembly. And I'm aware of all The Assembly.
Okay.
And I'm aware of all the great work that you do with youth and UAL. What kind of advice would you give me? Because we work a lot with young people who are trying to enter the fashion industry. We engage them, empower them on a monthly basis through mentoring, workshops. And I guess I'm at that stage where I'm trying to kind of create some structure to be able to help them more and give them the kind of need that they need. So what kind of advice would you give me? Yeah.
It's such a great thing to do. Like, I'm super passionate about it. And you seem really young yourself, so really incredible.
I have a big cheeks, but I'm not. I have 2 children.
Good genes. I think the structure thing is really, really important. So whenever you have an engagement with the people that you're mentoring or work with, at that point, it's really important for them to know what the next engagement is, not kind of keeping it too sporadic. I think tangible, you know, sometimes I remember when I was younger going to all, you know, like I was saying, I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. So I went to lots of talks, I went to the things that I knew were available to me. And some of the advice felt so lofty, you know, and kind of like abstract, that it was really hard to know. Like, I was like, I agree, but what does that mean day to day? What do I do day to day? So I think try to break down the advice that you give day to day. And I think the other thing about youth development is a lot of times we focus on people's talents, but sometimes you can be the most talented person in the room and never arrive, you know, never hit success. So for me, the most important thing is, how do you translate your talent into success? And that's a lot to do. A lot of times people I work with need coaching on their confidence, sometimes false confidence, because sometimes when people are insecure, they act like they're arrogant, but actually, you know, so it's about preparing people to be in the situations they're going to be in and really connect their talent to success in a practical way. But amazing, I love that you're doing that.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
My name is JC, and I am a fashion designer. Basically, I do t-shirts. So,
Oh,
but
great.
here's the thing: everything I learned, including how to cut, I learned online, right?
Amazing.
I learned from some magazines and all. But here's the problem I have. Sometimes Nigerians or some Nigerian designers tend to want to go and use Nigerian fabrics, right, to do foreign stuff. Now that is cool, but where is the uniqueness? Where is the originality?
Yeah.
So the question I want to ask is, how do you break that barrier, most especially in men's fashion?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a really good question. I mean, it's the age of the T-shirt as well. Everybody loves a T-shirt, the slogan tees and all of those sorts of things. I think that there's a big job to be done on that, right? Like, sometimes the things that are that feel homegrown don't feel as exotic, so less worthy, but they are. I think that what I would suggest is that if you see people around you, you can see in the media in general who kind of feels like they're into similar things to what you do. Reach out to them. If you're able to see if they will endorse your product or wear your product. And it's incredible what happens, how you can change minds if you get a few of the right people on board. So the right person wearing your T-shirts will have those people who are in any way doubtful on board. So I think that's the way that I would go with that.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi.
My name is Brown. My question is this. Earlier on when you spoke, you talked about the challenges you faced, going into the fashion world, coming from a family that was full of academicians. Now, I really want you to give me pointers. How were you able to overcome those challenges or that particular challenge?
Yeah. I think so many people come from families, especially in Africa, and it's the same across the developing world. Our parents just want the best for us, so they want us to go for the most secure careers. So they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer, or which are all very noble professions. If your family can't be your mentors in the things that you want to do, and it's very likely that if you're doing something different, they don't understand it themselves, then find your own mentors. Like I was saying about nurturing the relationships, if you come across someone who is inspiring to you and you can build a relationship with them, then do that, even if it feels like a reach. Make sure there's an actual relationship first, but the thing that I did unwittingly, actually, I make it sound like it was a master plan, but is I just built my own mentors. And there's a dear friend of mine who runs a media company in London, who, unbeknownst to her, was my mentor. We were just going to lunch from what she thought, but I would have a list of questions in my bag that in the taxi there I would be going through. And when I arrived, we would chat and I'd ask her what's going on and how's her son and da-da-da-da. And then I would oh, by the way, how would you deal with this? And how would you deal with that? And I had nurtured that friendship enough that she was open to giving me that time to help me. So I think it's challenging to break new ground that's different to your family and the people around you, but you can make your own family of supporters. Create your squad of mentors.
Thank you.
Hi.
Congratulations.
Thank
Vanessa. My name is Jumoke Kasim. I'm a sustainability consultant.
Your what, sorry?
Sustainability consultant.
Oh, great.
I promote adaptation to climate change.
Yes.
So my question is, how will you be promoting that in business operation for stakeholders? Because as a publisher, you have a lot of influence to be able to do that for businesses in the sector and for your operation.
Yeah.
Most especially getting old publication, maybe recycled, and then using the best adaptation products.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's a great question. Again, I think when it comes to sustainability, Africa is one of the countries that's at the forefront. I had a great meeting with Vivienne Westwood, who was talking about how naturally everybody recycles here, because why would you waste things? So people are making products from old products just naturally, and in the West, outside of Scandinavia, I would say, that's not something that comes naturally. It's like a really big deal to recycle, whereas I think this happens here. And then sustainability in production chains is really important going forward. And of course, for a legacy print brand, paper, we have to be really careful about how we use that. Already we're looking at things like not overprinting, because when I started in the industry, there was this kind of move to just print as many as possible and then pulp what you don't use. And now it's like, well, that's not financially viable, number one. And number two, it's so wasteful. So we're being much tighter at looking at our numbers, how things sell, where they sell, and producing to the right amounts. I think also digital really helps because of course, it's much more sustainable, those platforms. And I think also really rewarding the brands in the fashion space, actually beyond the fashion space. I think in car brands and so on are really looking at sustainability, really rewarding those brands with space really for that and championing that. So amazing area to work in. Cool.
I've had a lot of section today, and you actually caught me unaware. Thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.
The publishing part of the whole of fashion business, I would like you to put in some lights for me. What actually happened is this: I'm a journalist. While I was on campus, in college, I report for, I'm a freelance writer for most of the national dailies, except for maybe one or two. But unfortunately, there seems to have been a kind of, I don't know if I should call it kaba in Nigeria, when it comes to, media, anything that has to do with print media or the other aspect of it. So what actually happened is this: I had a platform with my vice chancellor, then I tabled a question to him. And unfortunately, the audience I got from the deans and the likes was not productive.
Okay.
So I would like to ask you, what can I do? How can I actually fend for myself when it comes to writing, then publishing eventually, other than having to table limiting myself to one media outfit or whatever. This is actually a major issue, and I don't know what else I should do about it. So that is why I'm asking you right now, what can I actually do about it?
So you want to work with more media outlets, and you feel like there's a bar with your journalism at the moment?
No, not necessarily a bigger outlet. Fine if it's going to be an added advantage. But what I'm saying in essence is this: most of the national dailies we have here in Nigeria, the media outfits, they tend to have a personal things they want from their. So I want to create something for myself without having to subject myself to those those
particular media outlets. Okay.
So what can I do about it? Thank you very much.
I think that, well, firstly, we are in a global world now. So if there's a vibe that you're getting from the Nigerian outlets, then there's you're a video call or an email away from anyone in the world. And then I think what I was saying before about various digital platforms, blogs and social, your own site even, they mean that you can bypass some of the outlets. Some really successful journalists that I know actually were picked up by bigger publications because they were producing content that was of the same standard as they were producing and getting a higher pickup because they were speaking in a voice that their community really recognized. So I think keep going with your content and build your community, build your own community, build your space, whether it be a blog or if you can, your own website, and definitely your social, so that you have something that those media outlets actually want, rather than you pitching and having to explain who you are and who will be interested. Show them who's interested by building your own audience. But I think it sounds like you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I've just been told there's no more questions. But
sorry, guys.
I've absolutely loved being here. This is one of the most welcoming places I've ever been, and keep being amazing.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Vanessa Kingori. Thank you.